Call the meeting to order now. Wednesday, October 25th, 2017, room 1010, City Hall. It is 3:10. I notice quorum, and we are prepared to move forward with our meeting. Item one.
Mr. Chair, would you, okay, item one. Item one, HSID and CAO reports relative to request for approval for the admittance of 7 new projects into the affordable housing managed pipeline.
Great. Can we get reports from both entities?
Good afternoon. Emily Zen Cervantes from the City Administrative Office. Our office, in our report, we added a couple of technical amendments to HSID's requests and recommendations, but in general, our office concurs with their requests. And there are staff members of HSID who are able to explain the requests for the managed pipeline and answer any questions.
Okay.
I'm Tim Elliott. I'm the manager of development and finance at HSID.
And my name is Janelle Ruiz. I'm in the Housing and Community Investment Department as well.
Okay.
So HSID's requesting authority for 3 things here. We want to admit 7 new projects into the managed pipeline. We're requesting approval of $4.6 million in housing opportunities for persons with AIDS for 2 apartment projects that are getting ready to get started. And we want to accept $2.5 million principal pay down for the Chinatown loan and the Chinatown Blossom Plaza project. 6 of the projects were recommended as a result of a call for projects we put out last November. In the interim, the Measure HHH passed, and a number of those projects were eligible to receive funding from Measure H, and as a result, or Triple H, and as a result, 4 of those were withdrawn and received full funding from that program. There's 6 that are being recommended for funding, and the remaining 5 could not be funded because the other projects, the highly scoring projects, were set to use up all the resources that were available otherwise. So those 6 projects would take approximately $8.5 million in HSID funding and will leverage $111 million in tax credits. These projects are widely distributed across the city from CD2 in the San Fernando Valley down to the Jordan Downs Public Housing Redevelopment Project in CD15. The Blossom Plaza project had cost savings which would normally be shared with the State Department of Housing, and they are willing to forego their share if we apply the cost savings towards our loan principal rather than the accrued interest, as is our custom, and the city attorney feels that this is an exception that is warranted given the amount of money that we're able to generate.
Is there we accept that. We were discussing this earlier. Is there was there other flexibility we could have utilized the other $2.5 million on? Or is it restricted to the site there?
Well, that would be home program income when we receive it back, and it would stay within the trust fund to fund other projects.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? You have any play in this?
No, good.
All right. Okay, thank you for your report. Do we have any other comments? Yep. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Chair, would it be the position of the chair to take items 2 and 3 on consent? Or would you
Yes,
like to-
we'd like to move items 2
Yes.
and 3 on consent.
Item 2 is a CAO and HSID report relative to requests for approving a variety of IT contracts. The recommendation is to adopt the CAO report. And item 3 is a HSID report regarding, excuse me, sorry, Item 2 is the San Pedro Beacon Street Pacific Quarters Project Area Blight Study. The recommendation is to adopt the CAO report. Item 3 is the IT services contract, and the recommendation would be to adopt the CAO report as well.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 4, HSID and CAO reports and draft ordinance relative to recommendations for the housing development land conveyance policy.
Let's adopt, you want to call item 4?
I already called the item, Mr. Chair. We're ready here for item 4.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Sean Spear. I'm from the Assistant General Manager for Housing Development with the Housing Department.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair. We have people standing up with pets disrupting the meeting. Ask them to sit down or leave.
Let's have the pets sit down, please.
Okay, thank you. This item's actions are pursuant to a September 1st request by the committee for a report related for eventually for council approval of a set of 3 items. The first is a report listing the properties currently in the land development program. The second is a property disposition policy for the housing opportunity sites. And the third was actually for the department to work closely with the city attorney, the city administrative officer, and the chief legislative analyst's office to work on an ordinance authorizing the department to acquire, receive, manage, convey, dispose, and develop real property for the housing development purposes. These 3 items really represent 3 critical elements to the success of our program and are focused on essentially making sure that the department utilizes these valuable resources to the maximum extent possible to achieve new, affordable, as well as permanent supportive housing opportunities. At this standpoint, I'm going to turn it over to Helmi Hisrich, who's our Director of Housing Strategy, and who will walk you through our outline of the program and the actions today.
Good afternoon, Helmi Hisarich, Director of Housing. I'm pleased to share with you a presentation that we prepared for the committee that it gives an overview of the land disposition process. After we go over sort of the general overview, we'll discuss the policy that is before you and the ordinance that's been prepared by the city attorney. Oh, okay, here we go. So, I'm just going to skip right into the program. So the goals of the land disposition program is primarily to leverage public land for affordable housing. We also are selecting qualified developers for the sites that are owned by the public, and then we're collaborating with city departments to get the developments built. And I should add that the majority of properties that we started with were inherited by the housing department from the former community redevelopment agency. So they're city assets that were transferred to the department. So 20 of the sites are former CRA sites, but we also have sites that come from other parts of our portfolio. and from other parts of the city. So 5 of the affordable housing opportunity sites are sites that were identified by the city administrative office that are surplus properties. And that is the area that we expect to see growth, because they are continuing to identify additional affordable housing opportunity sites from surplus properties in the city. HCID, in addition to having the 20 sites from the redevelopment agency, also had scoured its asset portfolio to identify properties that we could also develop. Some of them came out of the foreclosed properties that we had lent to, then foreclosed upon and took back. Some of them were sites that previously had been acquired by the department for some reason or another and not developed. And a couple of the sites are DOT lots that the Housing and Community Investment Department had entered into an agreement with DOT. So we're continuing to have those conversations with the Department of Transportation about their assets, and with the assistance of the CAO, I'm sure we'll also be talking with other departments that have developable sites so we can do joint development. So right now we have 30 sites that are under development or in the process of being developed into affordable housing. The process we're taking is a 4-step process. It starts with defining the vision, then we select a developer, we define the project, and we execute a development agreement. So the defining of the vision differs for each site. For the sites that were redevelopment sites, they had long records of public activity on them, so we took a look at what the historical public record was. But in every case, we've sat down with the council office to talk about what the vision is for the site, what the council members and their staff know about the community, particularly providing direction for the stakeholders that the developers should be speaking to or be aware of in the neighborhood, and are there opportunities to maximize or leverage other assets within the neighborhood. The department is also looking at land use considerations for each site, the design considerations that might be part of the council or the community's interests. So essentially, it's defining a broad vision for the site, for each site, and that is unique to that site. After we define the vision, we then prepare a process for scoring the proposals that we receive. So all of the proposals that we've received have been scored on a 100-point scale. 50 points are for what we call common criteria, or it's criteria specific to the qualifications of the developer. So all the developers have been scored in the exact same way on their qualifications. But for each site, we award 50 points that have to do more with vision or response to the specific vision. So for example, if we say our preference for the site is for homeownership, then those properties that are proposing strong homeownership proposals would get higher scores than those that propose rental. This gives you an example of the kind of scoring methodology we use. We actually have it all set up on an Excel spreadsheet so that we can quickly calculate the different scores for each proposal across every single identified scoring criteria. We use outside professionals as well as professionals from within the city who have experience in real estate to review the proposals. We have a very fair and balanced scoring process. After we select a developer, we then enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement so that we can exclusively negotiate with that developer for that particular site for a period of between 6 months and 2 years. And after we do the RFQ process, we also collect feedback from the developer. So every time we've done an RFP, we've actually had the opportunity to refine and improve it each time. So in defining the project, once we select a developer based on their response to the vision, we then get into a more specific defining of the project. The developer is asked to conduct community engagement work, and it varies depending upon the neighborhood about what is required to be done. But to refine the vision for the project, to do technical studies such as soils testing or looking at the land use entitlements, to develop a financing strategy. So often there's more than one way to finance a project, and the financing opportunities differ depending upon the population that's served or the affordability levels or whether or not it's transit-oriented, things like that. So it's defining the path forward financially and then applying for the necessary entitlements through the planning process. Excuse me. Step 4 is to enter into a disposition and development agreement. So after we've executed the ENA and we've negotiated, we've come to a defined project and a defined financing plan, all of that information is put into a term sheet. And it's the disposition and development agreement memorializes the terms that we've agreed to with the developer. So it is the agreement that we strike to transfer public land for the development project. The disposition and development agreement defines the scope of the project very specifically in terms of the units and the client served and the income levels that will be in the project. It sets forth the time frames for implementation. So when do they have to apply for tax credits, for example, or when do they have to apply for HHH funds? So very specific milestones and guidelines for the project. It has a comprehensive financing plan. So we're entering into a DDA knowing fully how the project will be financed or is expected to be financed. And then any commitments that we're able to make at the front end. So in most cases, this is only the commitment of land. So we're making a commitment through the development agreement of the public land. We've had a number of partners working with us, and without the partners, we could not have done the volume that we've done. And just to give you some context, we've got 30 projects right now that are in development we've done within 1 year. I worked at the redevelopment agency for 5 years. We never put that many housing units into development in a single year. So this is quite an extraordinary work program, and it's been really through the support of first of all, with Mariana Lem, who is my colleague, our colleague to the left, who has really been the lead manager of this land development process, and her team, together with the CAO's office, and in particular Jackie Wagner and Blair Miller, who've been extraordinarily helpful in helping us to coordinate the process. At LADOT, we're working closely with Ken Hustings, and it's actually through the partnership with the CAO and the LADOT that we're able to work through a lot of the complicated technical issues early on. At building and safety and planning, one of the things that we've been able to do is, and in fact Mariana has really come up with this plan, is to enable the developers to start going after their entitlements while they're in negotiation with the city. So we give them a letter, we say, well, the city owns the land, but here, you developer, go. So start now. So they're starting to get their entitlements as we're in the process of negotiating. And it's with great support of both planning and LADBS. So some of the things that we've implemented that we think are innovative are particularly the streamlined RFQ and RFP process and the streamlined scoring process, which really has helped us to keep the scoring very fair and very well organized. We've collaborated closely with planning to allow entitlement process to begin before the developer has site control. We've been managing using a Smartsheet, which is a cloud-based tool that enables us to strengthen the partnership with the developers and with other departments. So for example, with Smartsheet, if the developer needs to get on site and request the permit to enter, we can download the form, they can fill it out and upload it back to Smartsheet. So we can communicate real time with the developers and share documents back and forth. We have also required the developers to submit monthly project forecasts to guide internal planning efforts. So many of the pieces of information, which in a development context are often changing, we're getting constant updates. So we're constantly updating the numbers. Every time that management asks for reports on the projects, we're able to quickly respond with a series of really current information on the projects. Some of the problems or challenges that we're facing with this process is that there's not enough funds for pre-development expenses. We are not, because the properties are owned by the city, the banks will not lend against those properties because we will not allow them to use those assets to borrow money. So we've been working with several different community development lenders to develop a strategy to fix this problem. It hasn't been fixed yet, but we're confident or hopeful that we'll find a way forward. The next two bullets, unable to sell land below fair market value, and then HCID does not have the authority to buy, hold, and sell land, have been two major issues, major impediments or stumbling blocks for us, and that's actually what the policy that's before you today will fix. So that is what we're very, very glad to be here for. We think that will be an enormous benefit to this process. And then lastly is just NIMBYism, not in my backyard, or folks that are fearful of having affordable housing developed near them. And that is a broad issue that I think, with the comprehensive homeless plan, there's been a lot of effort to work on building more support within each community of Los Angeles for affordable housing. So to wrap it up, so far we have 30 projects that have been made available for development. We've executed 22 exclusive negotiating agreements for a total of 1.6 million feet of developable land. I want to apologize because I don't have the value of those assets, but I believe it is close to $100 million in asset value that we've made available. So we're really kind of doubling the size of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund through our land development program. Staff is currently reviewing developments, currently reviewing 8 developments. In fact, I think we reviewed and selected and made those recommendations. So this slide is a little bit old. You've already supported these. And 30 projects are estimated to create right now 1,600 units of affordable housing, of which 765 units are projected to be permanent supportive housing for homeless. So this will be the very first big supply of housing coming into HHH through the land development program. So with that, we're going to talk, happy to answer any questions, and we'll also talk about the policy.
So I'm looking at the 765 permanent supportive housing will result. We need 10,000 units, so we're moving towards 10%. This is basically year one. What's the estimated time on these being completed, the projects?
I'd have to look at our report to know, but I would say that most of these will be developed in the next 3 years. Several will be financed in this first round.
Right, so this is our first year ramp up. Do you have any thoughts on projections of sustainability? And we could do this in 10 years. It would be extraordinary to have 10,000 units of housing in 10 years.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I think we see this as sort of a critical piece in our overall efforts with HHH and the ability for us to do and provide additional sites for permanent supportive housing. Part of the thing is that with HHH, we're also moving forward with the call for projects, which we're hoping with council approval will release at the end of next month. But really being able to take advantage of these properties that we already have available and we can put forward to developers really makes a dent in our overall goal for achieving that 10,000 unit number. What I would say is that as Helmi alluded to earlier in her presentation, this is kind of the first wave of properties that are available, but we will continue to work with our partners in the other departments and with the CAO especially to identify additional sites that may be able to come in and ultimately help serve that goal as well. It's hard to know right now because it's kind of an ongoing analysis work that the CAO is working, but we expect to be able to have quite a few more come through the pipeline over the next 10 years.
Homeless committee? Sir?
Yeah, just first of all, I'm really pleased with this report. This is only a fraction of the overall picture, of course, but these are our assets. It's kind of, we're spending one-time money and utilizing these. We want to make the maximum, the most effective use of those limited assets to maximize the number of units of housing. And that brings me to my question, which is on the scoring criteria for the selection of the developers. It's not spelled out. Maybe it's contained within one of these categories, but to what degree do we consider cost effectiveness so that where does that figure into this ranking? Because Ms.
I can
Hisrick,
respond to
you've
that.
heard me say this a million times. I'm sure everybody in this committee is going to hear it a million other times. But we just can't build our way out of this problem at $500,000 a unit. We just can't do it. And so if we can get more cost-effective developers coming in to build more units at less cost with the incentive that they get priority in building on our land, that would be a really good thing. And I just want to make sure that that concept is integrated into the developer selection criteria.
Yes, what I can tell you is that our process is changing. So regarding cost effectiveness, that's always a concern of the department, and the department does scrutinize the costs as these projects go through the process. And there's multiple points at which those numbers get checked and rechecked. However, in this case, one of the key changes we're going to be making in this process, early on we knew we were going to make all of the CRA properties available at one time. And we did not have the staffing capacity to do a detailed financial analysis and make a decision based on GAAP. The other thing we didn't have when we do multiple properties at once is we did not have a very, very clear idea of what was going to be on each site. So when the redevelopment agency purchased these properties, they typically purchase them for a specific intent project. And they would release them typically one at a time and do a pro forma analysis and pick the lowest gap. That's very typical. Because we were releasing multiple properties at once, we did not pick on gap. We picked on developer qualifications. We did an RFQ/P. And we are driving the cost and cost efficiency discussion after we select the developer. However, because we did a lot of these at once, we're now going to be doing smaller numbers in the RFQs. We're actually switching to an RFP process where we will be selecting based on gap. So we will actually be in future rounds being more prescriptive about the financing. But in any case, these projects will get scrutinized through each step of the way by our department as well as by the other funders that leverage the funds.
I would just add, as a sort of as an example, I mean, some of these projects are, as they move through the process, we are bringing forward the term sheets after some initial underwriting as part of the process after they've been selected. Those term sheets in turn are then become sort of the basis for the feasibility discussion with the developer. But even further down the road, if they come in for additional resources from us, such as HHH, if they're doing supportive housing, that they have to then compete through the call for projects process. So we're really ensuring throughout the process that they are maximizing the leverage of this by us providing this resource as well as the other loan funds that we may be providing for the project.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for the report. It's very clear and a bit of a bright spot in this struggle, I think a Herculean struggle to catch up to our housing shortage here in Los Angeles. Just a very elementary and basic question. What does this proposal allow for you all to do that you can't do now, and how much time and money does it save?
Well, the threshold thing is for us to have the ability to actually sell the properties or enter into ground leases with the developers. We currently do not have that authority. So that's kind of a stopping before we even start kind of issue. I think the other elements are, certainly the ordinance plays a role in sort of in giving us the ability to do that. And then also, to a certain extent, your sort of approval of the policy and the program as laid out, as Helmy sort of outlined, I think gives us sort of the reinforcement that the program as designed is going to be effective and have your support going forward. On an individual basis, I think as Helmy outlined, the review for the submissions that come in over time going into the future will then have the ability to make sure that we're using these resources to an effective and cost-effective measure. So your kind of approval of the kind of design and framework of this program going forward will be really helpful to us. The numbers in terms of the difference is a little bit of the challenge. Yeah. So, we are looking at the valuation of the properties themselves, and certainly that becomes, the basis for the performance that the developers are looking at, and then taking that value and plugging it into the financing that they then go and seek on the state level becomes a critical element. So certainly us bringing forward and having the land available to them right off the bat is a savings to the projects. It really is going to vary from project to project based upon the value of those individual parcels.
I could add, one of the partners I did not mention but has been critical is the city attorney, and this change in this process, and Mei Cheng, who's at the end of the table, has been a partner in this, as well as Anna Didak, who is the city attorney doing all of the development agreements, and this will cut their time in half when it comes to making properties, getting them out into the hands of the developers. So the processing time is reduced significantly.
And typically their time is how much?
Well, in this case of our existing administrative code, it would be bringing an ordinance to the city twice to do a land sale transaction. So I would guess, I don't know if Mei has a better sense of this, but I'd guess at least, 10 hours of time is going to be saved in this process of a city attorney's time, times every property.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With the new ordinance that's proposed does offer a faster, more streamlined process. For example, housing will now have the authority to get an ordinance approved just going to council one time as opposed to two times, which is typically what they do right now. So. And they'll also have the flexibility of finance flexibility in terms, right now they only have the authority to sell properties and hold properties taken back in foreclosure, and you only have the option to sell at full appraised value. And now they have more flexible financing. They have the option to sell at below market value, but they have the addition, also the authority to ground lease under the condition that the property be used for a public purpose, which is also would be a great help to housing.
Great, thank you all. I think this is exceedingly clear-cut presentation and a clear-cut process. I think as we get into the details, it gets a bit more complicated, so I'm eager to see the details and the hair in these deals, and also to over time get a stronger sense of exactly how much of the time in particular, but also the money that is incurred in coming to council for approval.
Great. Before we go forward, you have something for me?
Mr. Chair,
Chair,
I understand there's public comment on items 1 through 3.
yes. Simply call up the public comment.
You could do so at this time, yes?
Okay. All items.
It's on all items.
3 minutes in total, correct?
So this is the multiple item agenda public comment.
So it's 3 minutes in total?
2.
And the public comment? 2 and 1? Or 2?
If Mr. Chair, this is Todd Leon with City Attorney. If Mr. Chair wishes, you can combine the multiple with the general public comments, and if it's multiple for 2 minutes, then you can combine the general with one additional minute.
So it'll be 3 minutes in total.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let's do that. Thank you for your presentation. We appreciate that, and the chance we may be enlightened. We've got 6 minutes coming up. The items are all items, right?
That's correct.
Okay, well, let's come on up, gentlemen. Puppet.
Good.
Good, very good. As you know, you cannot take an item, rule at it without taking the fucking public comment first, yes. And I quote the Brown Act, you cannot fucking take the item without the
Pepita.
fucking public comment.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pepita also, come on up.
Unquote, yes. So why won't the banks finance your
Come up now.
HCIDs?
Or you can waive by not
Yes,
coming
you
up,
want-
Herman. Those are your choices.
He's treating you like a Jew. He wants you to come up here, yes. For the record, Latin American, yes. Now, the reason the banks won't give you the money is because your projects are losers, like you. A bunch of fucking losers. Any investment that's good can be lent at 4% interest, and it can be depreciated and written off in a non-profit corporation, but you're a fucking bunch of losers. So that's why the banks go no to measure HHH, and I'm here to bitch about this fucking HHH, because the HHH is a no. All you have to do is put a good project together. And how do you put a good project together? You rent to wealthy Asians and Jews. If you try to rent to other people that have darker skin than my skin, yes, my light part of my black skin, you will not get the investment from Chase Manhattan. You will not get the investment from other New York banks, because the Jews in New York control 94% of all banking corporate stock. And that's why Marchese's getting up and leaving, because he knows it's true. He merely works as a houseboy for the rich Jews in New York, yes. In fact, I work for the wealthy Jews. And that's why the stupid fuck Gregorian talks in the middle of public comment, because the reason he does is because the Turks failed to take out his family, and now he works for the wealthy Jews in New York as well. So this is what we have for public comment. Wealthy Jews, yes. Stupid fucking projects, no. So thank you, Chase Manhattan. Thank you, Mellon Bank. Thank you to all the European conglomerates for not putting a dime of your investor money into these stupid fucking projects that make no return for their investors. And God bless all of the Jewish bankers that finance my shit.
2 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And go Dodgers.
Enlightenment.
Yes, go Dodgers. Thank you.
Now we have more public comment.
So you heard the
We
fucking
just
ridiculous
can't
report,
wait
right?
for this.
Fucking ridiculous report on HHH. How the fuck are they spending the money? We don't know. It doesn't reflect on what's happening outside in the real world. We see that dumb houseboy Negroes rather not pay attention to public comment and walk away from Wayne Spinner's public comment. And that's for the record, because it reflects the low self-esteem of 3 individuals, excluding 1 animal, who runs the housing committee for the physical impact statement, which none were submitted. And then when they go to item 3, for new information and technology, 42 U.S.C. 1983, fuck you. Then I go into item number 4, housing by the city attorney, fuck Mike Fuhrer and fuck the city attorney sitting on this committee, violation of the Ralph M. Brown Act, because they did not submit our public comment during the time of presentation. In the very beginning, you made us wait, you agitated my situation, fuck white niggers too, Dawson. And then I go to item number 5, bitch, regarding Cedillo talking about bitch, mayor, houseboy, Negro, asshole, fucking dumb motherfucking stupid asshole, Herman Jason Weston Jr. for the record, a.k.a. Herb, regarding time limits. Fuck your time limit and fuck Herman Jason Weston for the record, 42 U.S.C. 1983, and fuck the Armenians. Then on my last item, number 6, which is my fucking favorite number, the number of the beast, 666, you, Cedillo, should have shame knowing that your fucking pipe is disabled, bitch. What? I still have 1 minute and 3 seconds to go. Now my general public comment I like the dark side. I like all you do to the wicked things of HHH. I'm doing it too. I'm saying fuck you like I would on the wild side of life. Fuck HHH. More bitches to house. That's why I go home like rock cocaine. Cocaine and whiskey mix the same way that black, white nigger Dawson houseboy there can't help me with housing. It all has to do with housing. Every item I spoke about deals with housing. Not one fucking thing done for housing. I've been homeless since 2008, and I have a right to petition and protest my fucking opinion. Fuck you, Cedille. You're a sellout. You're a sellout. You're a sellout. And that fucking Armenian there, I'm glad the Turk fucked your country up. Fuck you.
Time is up
Chairman,
now.
disrupting the meeting.
You're disrupting the meeting now.
He's making noise and disrupting the meeting.
One more warning.
Ask that he be removed from the meeting.
You will be removed. One more warning. You'll be removed.
Out. Out.
Please remove him. Thank you.
In fact, as I'm trying to focus on the work of the meeting, Mr. Spindler is making animal sounds. I'd ask that he be removed as well.
Please remove Mr. Spindler too for disrupting the meeting.
Have a good day, Armando.
Go ahead, Mr. Teacher. Go ahead. Your time is up.
For the record, even as the officer is trying to escort him out, he still isn't leaving. And I think Mr. Spindler has been asked to leave as well by the chairman.
Mr. Spindler continues to make animal noises. We're asking him to leave.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the enlightenment that we've had from our public comment, I'd ask that we reconsider the matters that we've already voted on, now that we have the benefit of the input of the public on those matters.
So be the order. Any objection to reconsidering and voting for these matters?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, items 1 through 3, the recommendation is to adopt the CAO reports.
So be the order. Any objection? Nope. And how about item 4?
Item 4, the recommendation is to adopt the HCID report and the ordinance.
I so move. No objection? We have an appointment next.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, item 5, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Naomi Iwasaki to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Hi, Naomi. Thank you for weathering this enlightened show of public comment and still being with us. Even I think that in itself would merit your appointment, but why don't you tell us about yourself anyway?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Naomi Iwasaki, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I love this city. Go Dodgers. I've
Say no more.
I've seen the city change and grow in my lifetime through my parents' eyes, as they have spent their whole lives in the city as well. And affordable housing has become one of the most pressing issues that we're facing today. So I'm honored to be invited to be a part of that conversation on the city level. I'm currently Deputy Director at Investing in Place. We're a transportation policy nonprofit. And as you all know, Los Angeles is in the middle of an unprecedented transit expansion. And in Los Angeles, most of the people that use transit are the very same people who need affordable housing. So I'm very excited to be at that nexus and be a part of making Los Angeles even better for everyone that lives here, not just those with the most means. Thank you for your consideration.
Colleagues? Move the
You have
appointment.
a remarkable record of service, and thank you for being willing to serve the city.
Yeah, I echo that. Move to support the appointment.
Second.
Objection? Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, item 6, motion.
Item 6, we have public comment.
Yeah, motion-
Amelia?
Briefly, Mr. Chair, City Corrett's motion regarding the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Claudia Monterrosa, and I'm with the HCID Los Angeles. I'm the public policy director. And I'm here to present and give a verbal report on the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant Program. Actually, it's a program that has a grant component and a loan component as well. So I am very pleased to report that the city has actually been actively engaged in this process since the beginning, since the inception of this program. And Council Member Cedillo, you have been an avid supporter of this program since the beginning as well. So I'm pleased to report that since between round one and round two, we have been able to secure nearly $95 million in AHAC funding for both affordable housing and transportation infrastructure improvements. Round two, which was last year, we were awarded $64.6 million, or 22% of the total ASIC funding available at the state, for a total of 6 projects. We were a co-applicant for 5 out of those 6 projects. One of them was the Housing Authority, and the rest were a co-application with the City of Los Angeles. So the new NOFA in the amount of $255 million was just released in October 2nd of this month, so the process for round 3 is well underway. We are currently working with 9 to 10 potential applicants for this round 3. We are currently conducting clinics, one-on-one developer clinics with these developers so that we can learn more about those projects. And we've invited the council offices to participate in those meetings between yesterday and today. And I've seen some of your council staff present at those meetings between yesterday and today. In fact, they're taking place right now. So before you is our oral report on how we're going to approach this criteria, how we're going to approach this process this year. So we have a very robust time list of projects, and they have coverage between City Council 8, 1, 13, 14, 10. So those are the council offices for which we have potential good applications moving forward. This program is quite complicated, and there were some changes to the guidelines. However, the co-application with a locality or a jurisdiction impacts about 70% of the application. So in one way or another, the City of Los Angeles is going to be moving forward to support the applications that meet the threshold criteria and that meet the requirements in terms of this competitiveness. In terms of this, we have secured technical assistance from enterprise community partners, so we will be working alongside with them. We understand that enterprise also has secured some technical assistance to provide them with technical assistance to the County of Los Angeles. So we actually expect to have a much more robust and competitive application time period, this time more competitive applications. So I'd like to go over the proposed criteria for this year. We are evaluating projects that have met initial threshold, and in order for an applicant to be a co-applicant, they have to meet the following criteria: have been admitted to the City of Los Angeles Housing Trust Fund managed pipeline, have received or will be leveraging Proposition HHH funding, or is a citywide, it's a city-owned site. I'm really pleased to present, to report that we have about 2 of these projects already being considered for AHAC funding. Some of those projects that Helmi just discussed in her presentation. The second criteria that we are proposing is to advance how the HCDLA's prioritize planning efforts and policy objectives to produce and preserve affordable housing near transit. And then advance and promote sustainable transit infrastructure and amenities that implement prioritized LADOT and metro priorities. I do have to say, and I really want to thank the efforts of the ASIC city team. This is not an effort that just HCID LA undertakes. This takes a village. So we work very closely with the Department of Transportation, Public Works, BOE, and the Planning Department. And last year we had commitments from the Department of Economic Development as well for a component of the application. So having said that, we are going to hopefully be instructed to come back and present to you the final criteria. We will have a finite list of developers by the end of next week or early in November. And we are going to come back with instructions or authorities that we need. What I did fail to mention is that the application is due January 16. So we do have significant holidays taking place during that application process. We have Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday. So we are going to come back early enough so that we can have the necessary authorities to move forward and be able to proceed as a joint applicant. This is a great opportunity for the City of Los Angeles. If it wasn't for the City of Los Angeles, the Southern California region would not be substantially represented in the getting of these awards. So we will continue to move forward and get our fair share of these funds. There are $255 million available. And recently, this year, the state legislature also expanded this program in its entirety in terms of the cap and trade program or green, the GGRF funds until 2030. So this program is going to be around for a significant number of years. So we expect to continue to be involved in rounds 4 and any other subsequent funding rounds. I think that's all I have for you right now, and I'm open to entertain any questions that you may have. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your report and foresight on this matter. I just want you to speak some about how Los Angeles and the region is doing with regard to this funding source. I know the last set of reports we got, there was a good amount of inequity given that 1 out of every 3 people in the state of California live in LA County and 1 out of every 10 live in the city of LA. Is that getting better, worse, staying about the same?
We are still not getting our fair share in terms of the state funds. In terms of the AHAC funding, there is new funding that became available that's outside of the cap and trade program, which is the Transformative Climates Community Program, where the city was allocated $30 million, and it has to compete for that. That process is underway right now. What I can tell you is that the city of Los Angeles has 62% of the disadvantaged communities based on the Cal Enviro 3.0 screen. And we did better than a lot of other localities. We were the city that had the largest allocation of AHAC funding last year. But as a region in total, we are still falling behind the Bay Area. The Bay Area in general got more funding because they had more robust projects. One of the ways that we can increase our fair share of this is to have more innovative and more aggressive transit sustainable infrastructure projects. And what I mean by that, or what qualifies as an STI component, is bike improvements, bike class 2 and class 4 bike lanes, making the streets safer, doing street improvements, bulb outs, improving the safety for crosswalks.
Wait, I got to stop you on this. So we're building a rail system. Mm-hmm. Like, is there any greater transit investment than that?
Yes, but you mean talking about the high-speed rail?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only the station that we do have to leverage that will be Union Station, right, for the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
And right now we're not leveraging that amount. We are going. once that has been designated and there are opportunities for that, we can leverage projects that are around the Union Station area that will become a speed rail station. But that is not happening in this round. But it's something that we can start planning moving forward, for sure.
And this is not directed at you, at anybody or anybody in the city, because I know we don't administer this program, and I am being purposefully agitational. But you're telling me that a project that has a bike lane in front of it would be scored higher than a project that's on a rail line?
No, what I'm saying, no, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question. So we have two types of projects, so there's two typologies. It's an interconnectivity project, which does not have a high-quality transit area, or a high-quality transit project that qualifies that project to be a TOD project. So anything that's around a half a mile of heavy rail, light rail, or a dedicated bus lane will qualify as high-quality transit. So we have quite a bit of that. Last year, we had many more projects that qualified as TOD. This time around, we're more evenly split. We have a lot of ICP projects and TOD projects. And so it's a combination of things. The intent of this project, of this program overall, is to decrease GHG and decrease vehicle miles traveled. And so combining the transit-rich areas and really creating incentives for people to move out of cars and using bike lanes and using walkways and just really using public transit, that is the aim of that. So it's a three-pronged approach. So you have your sustainable transit infrastructure project, and then you have your housing to reach those goals of the program overall.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One really small point, just in response to the discussion that we just had about high-speed rail. I just wanted to put on your radar to remember for the future that while we only have one proposed station within the city boundaries, the high-speed rail station at Burbank Airport is very much within a half mile of the city of Los Angeles and communities that could very much use transit-oriented development and that are underserved. So.
And that would be fantastic to work across jurisdictions and leverage that. Yes, that's correct.
Public comment? Public comment, Amelia Lomeli Fanan.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. I want to comment on your comment. There is 8 to 10 acre land for sale privately at the near the last one of the stops near Azusa. So if the city and the county would make an effort to work jointly, which you all said you would, to answer your question about improvement of transportation, helps everything. Helps housing because we need housing near it. Helps the environment. But I'm here, but I wanted to say that. And for those of you, and I know Councilman Cedillo, because I often call him Gil, since we hung out in high school while he was a quarterback, I think. But in any case.
So we heard.
So forgive me as he does when I call him Gil.
That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
You're taking my time. So I'm going to go over.
An additional 10 minutes.
Yeah. I've got stories. So there is also one in El Monte, which Councilman Cedillo knows. We have a 3.88 acres, and I'm not a realtor. I just know because people are calling me to say, we've got this land for you. And I said, well, if the city and the county get together, so I'm asking you to get together because we got 2 locations and cities nearby are willing to pitch in. I'm here to complain, and I shared that with the councilman before I came to the meeting. We've been asking for a measly, and forgive my accent, $500,000 loan because we had a couple of setbacks in a project for affordable housing. And we were told, yeah, probably so. And, you know, there's a Spanish song called Quizá, 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 you know. So now we're told there isn't funds. This development would have 65 units of affordable housing, and it would be across the street from light rail. So hearing the reports, and that's why I chose this specific subject or topic on this entry, because I think it says that this body should coordinate with the housing entities, public housing entities. So I suggest to you that it failed to our request when, before people that failed to do that. And I just want to bring it up to the committee, and I won't say whose office or when, but that makes me very upset because on my way here or when I drive home and I see people lying on the streets, I live near the Arroyo and we have children living on the Arroyo with their families at 90 degrees plus, and none of them are going to the Dodger game, by the way, okay? And they lack housing. I do not see how it's possible for someone to tell me that they cannot loan us $500,000 to get this project moving again. So I hope that you hear that, and I hope to hear from some of you and to get help to resolve this issue. I am calling on other people, but I just want to go on the record that you all know and you all talk about the great need, as did one of the candidates for mayor. And, yes, he's right to say that the Bay Area does better than us, and they shouldn't do better than us. We're much larger. We have far more money, and we have no excuse. And Councilman Cedillo knows that we were raised in Boyle Heights. Housing was tough, but we could afford it then. And I can tell you that not only the poor are being affected, but middle class and workforce are being pushed out again. We need to do something. So please help us with our project so we can get this project off the ground.
Thank you
so much.
Okay. That clears the docket.
What will be the action on this item?
Hey, Mr. Chair, we recommend that you continue the item in committee and instruct HSID to report back on the projects the city could co-apply for.
Yes, let's hold this and wait for that. Great.
That clears the desk.
That clears the desk. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.